The Princess of the Stars scorned humanity until one human saved her life. In the endless dark between the galaxies, the Zenthari fleet drifted like silver ghosts, their ships long and sharp like knives cutting through silence. They believed themselves perfect, ancient, and above all other life, especially humans whom they called dustwalkers for crawling over broken worlds and building again from nothing. Among them was Lyra, last daughter of the Zenthari royal line. Her skin pale as frost, her eyes bright silver that had never known doubt, only cold certainty she had watched from high orbit as human cities burned in wars. They started themselves as their crude machines tore their homes apart. She saw their hunger, their noise, their mess, and judged them unworthy of the star snow her great ship the Aetheris hung above Ceres. 9, a dry human world where people lived in cracked domes and dug for water in the red dust. The Zenthari Council sent her only to watch, not to help, just to confirm what they already knew, that humans were a mistake best left to fade. But then a signal broke through the static. Not a weapon, not a call for help, but a steady pulse from a mining outpost buried in a sandstorm that had raged for 3 days straight. Lyra frowned, her fingers hovering over the console. Zenthari law said ignore it. Humans were not their concern, yet the pulse kept coming strong and steady like a heart that refused to stop. Against her training, Lyra sent down a small scout ship. She would only watch, not interfere. The ship dropped through the red storm sensors, piercing the dust below. They showed a half-crushed dome, its walls cracked, air leaking out inside. 2 humans moved, one dragging the other toward a sealed room. The injured, one wore a blue jumpsuit soaked in blood. The other wore only a torn vest and boots. Her dark hair tied back, her face dirty, but her eyes clear and focusedly. Ra watched as the woman sealed the room with her own hands, then turned to a broken comms unit and tapped out new coordinates, not for rescue but for a hidden water source 2 kilometers east. She was giving others a chance to live, even as her own air ran out. That was when Lyra's certainty began to crack. Before she could decide what to do, the ground shook, a hidden crack split open under the dome. The metal groaned and collapsed inward, burying both humans under rock and steel. Lyra's breath caught. She should leave, but she could not. Without thinking, she teleported down. Heat hit her first, then the smell of smoke and blood. She stood in rubble, her silver robes torn, her perfect skin smudged with soot. She saw the injured human lying still, blood on her temple, and the other pinned under a heavy beam, her leg bent wrong. But still she reached for her friend, whispering, "Stay with me, Lily. Stay with me." Lyra did not know the word Lily, but she knew that voice. It was the same voice her mother used when she lay dying. The human looked up, eyes wide, not with fear but surprise. "You're one of them," she said, "the star people, Lee." Ra nodded. "I should not be here. You came anyway." The woman gave a weak smile, then winced. Lyra knelt and pushed the beam with all her strength, but her body was not made for such work. She failed. The human watched, then said, "My name is Maya. There's a lever near your foot. Pull it." Lyra found the rusted bar and pulled the beam. Shifted, Maya dragged herself free, crying out in pain, then crawled to Lily, checking her breathing, her eyes never leaving her. "Who is she?" Lyra asked. "My sister," Maya whispered, "but not by blood. We found each other after the Eastern collapse." "She's all I have." Lyra looked at them huddled in the ruins and felt something strange. Not pity, but something warmer, heavier. She called for help, but the storm had broken the scout systems. They were stuck until the winds died. Maya's eyes met hers. "You don't have to stay. I already broke the rules." Lyra said, "I may as well see them through for 12 hours. They waited in the dark. Maya told stories of Series 9, how they built greenhouses from old ship parts, how kids played in the dust pretending it was snow, how they sang songs from a planet none had ever seen. Lyra listened, silent, her silver eyes catching the dim light. "You think we're animals," she said finally. Maya's laugh was soft, "I think. You think we're less than animals. At least animals don't burn their own nests. We do not destroy ours," Lyra said. "But we also do not rebuild them." "Maybe that's the difference," Maya said gently. "We fall, we bleed. We get back up, not because we're strong, but because we have no choice." Lyra looked at Lily sleeping against Maya's shoulder and thought of her own people, perfect, frozen, never changing, never failing. Because they never tried. When the storm ended, the sky turned gold. The scout hummed back to life. Lyra carried Lily while Maya limped beside her using a pipe as a crutch. They boarded the ship without words. Back on the Aetheris, the Zenthari officers stared in horror at humans on their clean deck, but Lyra raised her hand and they stayed silent. She ordered medics to treat both women, then faced the council through a glowing screen, her voice calm. "I have seen something that changes everything." The elders scoffed. "Humans are chaos. They bring only ruin." And yet Lyra said they also carry each other through the dark. They share their last drop of water. They name the stars even when they cannot reach them. "That is not strength. That is desperation," no, Lyra said. "That is hope." She turned off the screen and went to the observation deck where Maya sat wrapped in a blanket staring at the stars. "You're sending us back," she said. No, Lyra said. "I am going to show my people what they forgot." Maya's eyes widened. "You'd risk your throne for use? I would risk my life for anyone who risks theirs for another," Lyra said simply. In the days that followed, the Aetheris did not leave. Instead, it stayed above Ceres. 9, dropping clean water, medicine, and seeds. The Zenthari Council raged, but Lyra stood firm. She opened royal records to human scholars, let their engineers study Zenthari tools not to copy but to learn. And Maya became the bridge teaching the Zenthari how to plant in broken ground, how to fix what is torn, how to laugh when the world feels broken. The Princess of the Stars no longer looked down on humanity. She walked among them not as a ruler but as a student, learning from the Dustwalkers how to rise again, and when the next storm came, not of sand, but of war, from a cruel empire beyond the rim. It was not just Zenthari blades that held the line, but humans standing beside them, building shields from scrap and courage from nothingly. Ra watched from the command deck as Maya gave orders, calm and sure, her heart unbroken. "You were wrong about us," Maya had once said. No, Lyra replied softly. "I was wrong about everything." And in that moment the stars seemed to shine just a little brighter for the girl who saved a princess by simply refusing to let go. The Dustwalkers had never seen a sky like this one, clear and quiet. After weeks of red storms, the twin suns of Ceres 9 rose slow in gentle painting. The dunes in gold and amber below the Aetheris hovered silent, its silver hull reflecting the light like a promise. Lyra stood on the observation deck watching as Maya limped across the landing field, her legs still wrapped in a medical brace, but her step sure, her head high. Life had changed in the weeks since the collapse. The Zenthari no longer watched from afar. They walked among the humans, not as conquerors but as learners. At first the humans were wary eyes, narrow shoulders tense, but Maya stood between them, speaking softly, explaining that the star people were not here to take, but to give. And slowly trust grew. Lyra spent her days in the settlement watching how humans turned rust into tools, how they shared food even when they had little, how they sang while they worked, songs full of sorrow and hope. In equal measure, she asked questions not as a princess but as someone who had lived too long in silence. One evening, as the suns dipped low, Maya found her sitting alone on a broken wall outside the main dome. "You look tired," she said, handing her a cup of warm root tea. Lyra took it, surprised by the heat, the bitterness, the strange comfort in it. "We do not drink on my world," she said. "We absorb nutrients through light. Well, you're on our world now," Maya said with a small smile. "And here we drink tea when things hurtly." Ra sipped again and for the first time felt something close to peace, but peace never lasts. 3 days later the warning came not from the sky but from deep space. A signal, scrambled and weak, intercepted by the Aetheris sensors. It spoke of fire and silence, of worlds gone dark one after another. The Krell, a warborn species with ships like black teeth, had crossed the galactic rim and were moving toward the inner systems. Ceres 9 lay directly in their path. The Zenthari Council demanded immediate withdrawal, return to the core worlds. They ordered humanity is not worth the risk. Lyra refused. She stood before the council, holograms flickering with disapproval. "You call them unworthy," she said. "But they have shown more courage in 1 day than we have in 1,000 years. They are chaotic. They will panic, they will fall. Then we will fall with them," Lyra said. "If we are truly superior, we should protect, not abandon." Silence followed, heavy and cold, back on Ceres 9. Maya gathered the settlers in the main dome, faces tired but alert. We have a choice, she said. The star people can take some of us away, or we can stay and fight. A murmur rose, then a voice from the back. I ain't running again, not after what we lost. Another spoke. My kids were born here. This is home, Maya's. Eyes shone. She turned to Lyra, who stood at the edge of the crowd, silent but present. What can we do? Lyra stepped forward. The Krell do not understand mercy. They burn everything. But they do not expect resistance from a dust world. They think you are weak. Then let's show them we're not, Maya said. Plans began that night. Humans and Xanthari working side by side in the dim light of the dome. The Xanthari shared energy shields and pulse rifles. But the humans brought something else: ingenuity. They took old mining drones and rigged them with explosives. They turned irrigation pipes into sonic emitters that could shatter metal at the right frequency. They built decoy signals from broken comms units to confuse enemy scanners. Lyra watched Maya move among them. Calm, steady, her mind. Sharp, even when exhaustion pulled at her bones. She reminded Lyra of the old Xanthari warriors. Not because she carried a weapon, but because she carried hope. 3 days before the Krell arrived, Lily woke from her long sleep, weak but alive. She smiled when she saw Maya, then frowned when she saw the preparations for warrior staying. She said, "Not a question, we're fighting." Maya replied. Lily sat up slowly, then nodded. "Okay, then I fight too." The day came hot and still. The sky turned black as the Krell fleet entered orbit, their ships jagged and brutal, blotting out the sun's. Alarms blared across the settlement. But no one ran. They stood at their posts, humans in patched clothes, Xanthari in silver armor side by side. The first attack came, not with bombs, but with silence, a pulse that killed all power across the dome. Lights died, comms failed, even the Aetheris went dark for a moment. In that darkness, May grabbed Lyra's hand. "Follow me." They ran through the tunnels beneath the settlement to an old geothermal vent. Humans had used it for heat for years now. It held their last surprise, a network of resonant crystals wired to the sonic emitters. "If we can overload the frequency," Maya panted it, "I'll shake their ships apart from the inside." Lyra stared at the crude setup. It was madness. It was brilliant. She placed her hands on the control node and channeled her own bioenergy into the system. The crystals glowed blue, then white. A hum filled the air, rising higher and higher until it became a scream above them. The Krell ship shuddered. Metal groaned and cracked one by one, their hulls split open, not from outside but from within. The humans cheered, but Lyra saw the cost. The effort had drained her. She fell to her knees, vision blurring. Maya caught her. "Hold on, Lyra, hold on." "I am trying," Lyra whispered. "You don't get to leave now, not after everything." Lyra looked up into Maya's eyes, fierce and bright, and found strength she did not know she had. The battle was not over, but the tide had turned. The Krell retreated, confused by this world that fought back with songs and scrap and stubborn hearts. In the aftermath, the Aetheris remained. The Xanthari Council sent no more orders. They watched in silence as their princess walked among the Dustwalkers, helping to rebuild, not with perfect machines but with hands and heartily. Ra no longer wore her royal robes. She wore a simple tunic stitched by Lily, her silver hair tied back like Maya's. She ate real food, drank real tea, and learned to laugh at human jokes, even when she did not understand them. One evening, as the twin suns set, she stood with Maya on the same broken wall. "You saved me." She said, "No." Maya said softly, "You saved yourself. You just needed someone to show you how." Lyra looked at the stars, not as distant thrones, but as places where new stories could begin. And for the first time, she believed that even a princess of the stars could learn to be human. The victory over the Krell did not bring peace. It brought attention, news of a dust world that broke. A war fleet spread like fire through the galaxy. Species that had hidden for generations now looked toward Series 9. Not with fear, but with hope. The Aetheris became a beacon not just for the Xanthari, but for refugees from burned colonies, broken worlds, and silent moons. They came in battered ships with empty tanks and full hearts, seeking the place where star people and dustwalkers stood togetherly. Red did not turn them away. She stood on the landing field as the first refugee ship touched down, its hull scorched, its lights flickering. A family of 3 stepped out, eyes wide. Not at the Xanthari ship above, but at the humans waiting with water and blankets. Maya stood beside Lyra, arms crossed but smiling. "They're scared," she said. Then, We show them they don't have to be, Lyra replied. The settlement grew fast. New domes rose from salvaged metal gardens spread into the red soil. Children from a dozen worlds played in the dust, laughing in languages that slowly mixed into something. New Lyra walked among them, learning names, learning grief, learning how to hold someone who had lost everything and still say it will be okay. But not all who came sought shelter. One evening, a sleek black vessel arrived. No markings, no signal. It hovered. Low then dropped a single figure onto the field, armored in dark alloy, face hidden behind a smooth mask. The being walked straight to the main dome, ignoring guards, ignoring warnings. Lyra and Maya met them at the gate. Who are you? Lyra asked, hand near. Her sidearm. The figure removed the mask, revealing sharp features, pale green skin, and eyes like black glass. I am Kale of the Vathi. I come not to fight but to speak. The Vathi were traitors, spies, and sometimes slavers. They dealt in secrets more than goods, and they never gave anything for free. What do you want? Maya asked, voice flat. Kale looked at Lyra. You broke the Krell with song and scrap. Now every warlord in the Outer Rim fears a planet of singers and welders. They are gathering a fleet, not to attack, but to contain, to bury Series 9 before your idea spreads. Lyra felt cold. Your idea that kindness is strength. Kale said that unity is not weakness, that even dustwalkers can change the stars. Maya stepped forward. So they want to crush us. Before we teach others how to stand exactly, Kale said, and they will be here in 30 cycles. 30 days. The dome fell silent. That night no one slept. Plans formed in hushed voices in corners lit by oil lamps. The refugees offered what they had: pilots, engineers, medics, even poets who said words could be weapons too. Lyra called the Zenthari Council, expecting refusal, but instead the eldest elder spoke. We have watched you, daughter, and we were wrong. The next morning the Aetheris opened its bays. Not to leave, but to share. Zenthari tech flowed into human hands, not as gifts, but as partnerships. Maya led teams that fused Zenthari energy cores with human drone frames, creating fast, silent fighters that could dance between asteroids. Lily worked with Vathi refugees to build signal jammers that turned enemy comms into static songs. Lyra trained with the defenders not as a princess, but as a soldier. She learned to fire a pulse rifle, to patch a wound, to sleep in the dirt with her back to a friend. Kale stayed watching from the shadows, sometimes offering advice, sometimes just watching Maya work. You admire her, Kale said one night. To Lyra, she is the heart of this place. Lyra said, without her, I would still be watching from above, and you. Love her. Lyra looked at the stars, not with longing, but with truth. Yes, not as a human loves a human or a Zenthari loves a Zenthari, but as one soul recognizes another who refused to let the dark win. The days passed fast. The sky grew tense like a drawn bow. On the 29th day, the scouts reported movement at the edge of the system. Hundreds of ships, dark and hungry. The final night came, quiet. Maya found Lyra on the old broken wall where they first shared tea. You scared? She asked. Always, Lyra said, but not enough to run. Maya took her hand. Our people are ready. Not just your people, ours, Lyra said. They sat in silence, watching the stars at dawn. The fleet arrived, not with fire, but with silence again. A new kind of pulse, one that did not kill power, but scrambled thought. For a moment, everyone staggered. Confused, lost, but Maya had planned for this. Before the pulse hit, she activated the old mining network deep underground, a web of tunnels now lined with Zenthari resonance nodes. The moment the enemy ships fired their mind weapon, the nodes absorbed the energy, then reflected it back tenfold. The enemy fleet froze, their crews clutching their heads, screaming as their own weapon turned against them. In that chaos, the human Zenthari Vathi fighters struck not to destroy but to disable. They cut engines, jammed weapons, forced ships to drift helpless. Kale stood on the command deck of the Aetheris, watching with something like awe. You did not kill them. We gave them a choice. Lyra said, surrender, or drift until they see reason. By sunset, the battle was over. Not with blood, but with silence of a different kind. The enemy commanders walked onto the field, hands raised, not in surrender, but in wonder. One spoke through a translator. We came to bury a myth, but we found a truth. What truth? Maya asked. That hope is real. In the weeks that followed, Series 9 became more than a refuge. It became a school, a forge, a promise. The Zenthari sent more ships, not warships, but builders and teachers, the Vethi. Opened trade routes guarded by human pilots. Other species sent their young to learn how to mend what is brokenly. Ra no longer called herself princess. She called herself a builder. Maya stood beside her, always not as a savior, but as a partner. One evening as the twin suns set, they walked through the new garden where children from a dozen worlds planted seeds in red soil. You think, well, ever get a quiet day? Maya asked. Lyra smiled. Probably not good. Maya said, because quiet days are overrated, and, above them, the stars watched not as distant judges but as witnesses to a new story. One written not in stone or light, but in stubborn hearts and shared hands, and the quiet courage of those who refuse to let go. Peace settled over Series 9 like morning dew, soft but fragile. The garden grew taller, the domes stronger, the children's laughter louder, yet Lyra felt it, the quiet hum beneath the calm, the kind of stillness that comes before a storm. Not of sand or war, but of change. It began with a whisper from deep space, a signal not of fear or war, but of wonder. A probe from the galactic core worlds, long silent, now asking one question. Who are you? The Council of the Inner Spheres had heard the stories. Of Series 9, they had seen the broken Krell ships drifting in orbit. They had watched as slaver fleets turned away. Not from fear, but from shame. And now they wanted to see for themselves. Maya stood with Lyra in the command dome as the message played. Again and again, they're not threatening us, Lyra said. Nomea replied, they're inviting us. What of the table? The inner spheres were ancient. Older even than the Zenthari, they governed the heart of the galaxy with laws written in starlight and silence. They had never acknowledged humanity before, never called them anything but anomalies. Now they asked Series 9 to send a voice. Who goes? Maya asked. You do. Lyra said without hesitation. May you built this place with your hands, your heart. You're stubborn. Refusal to let anyone fall alone. If anyone speaks for us, it is you. Maya looked at her, eyes wide but steady, and nodded. Preparations began not for war, but for journey. The Aetheris would carry Maya to the core world of Ilaris, a planet of crystal towers, and sky gardens where species gathered only if they had earned the right to be heard. Lily helped pack supplies, her hands quick and sure. You'll be fine, she said. But her voice shook. Kale offered a small device, a memory stone that holds truth no matter the lies around it. They will test you, Maya. They will try to make you small, then it'll remind them how big we are. Maya said. The day of departure dawned clear. Lyra walked Maya to the shuttle bay. The settlement gathered not to mourn, but to send her off with songs, old earth tunes mixed with Zenthari harmonies and Vethi chants. You come back, she said to Lyra. Always, Lyra replied. The Aetheris left orbit slowly, then vanished into the fold of space. Ilaris was more beautiful than stories said. Towers of living crystal rose into clouds that glowed with soft light, bridges of light-connected islands floating in the sky. Beings of 100 shapes moved with quiet grace. Maya stepped onto the grand platform alone. The council sat in a circle, elders, of species so old, their names were lost to time. They did not speak at first, they watched. Finally, one voice came, not from a mouth, but from the air itself. You are Maya of Series 9, Dustwalker Humaniam. You stand for a world of mixed blood and broken tools. Why should we listen? Because we listen to each other. Maya said simply, silence. You defeated warlords with songs and scrap. We showed them another way. You shelter enemies. We gave them a choice. You mix with species you barely understand. We learn. The council shifted. Then the voice came again. Prove your way is not just survival but wisdom. Maya reached into her pocket and pulled out a small pouch. She opened it and poured red soil onto the crystal floor. This is from my home. She said it is dry. It is poor, it has been burned and buried and forgotten. But we grow food in it. We build homes on it. We raise children who dream in it. He knelt and pressed her palm into the soil, then placed it on the council floor. Your world is perfect, she said. Ours is not, but we love it anyway, and that love makes us strong. Not in spite of our cracks, but because of them. A long pause, then a soft chime. You may speak at the conclave. The great hall filled with beings from every corner of the galaxy. Maya stood, small among them, but her voice carried clear. She spoke not of weapons or power, but of shared meals, of teaching a Zenthari child to plant seeds, of singing lullabies to scared refugees, of how Lily once gave her last water to a stranger, and how that stranger now guards their eastern gates. He spoke of Lyra, who left perfection to learn how to bleed. When she finished, no one clapped. There was only silence. Then one by one the elders rose and bowed, not to a leader, but to a truth in the journey. Maya sat alone in the shuttle, looking at the red soil still on her hands. The Aetheris returned to Series 9. Not as a lone ship, but followed by dozens of vessels from species who had heard her words and wanted to see this place where hope was. Not a dream, but a daily choice. Lyra waited on the landing field. You did it, Maya said. No, we did it, Lyra replied. In the weeks that followed, embassies rose beside gardens. Schools opened under open skies, and the old broken wall became a place where visitors sat to listen to stories. One evening, as the twin suns set, Maya and Lyra walked through the new orchard trees from a dozen worlds growing side by side. You ever miss the stars up there? Lyra asked, pointing to the sky. I have all the stars I need, right? Here, Maya said, taking her hand. And for the first time in her long life, Lyra believed that home was not a place in the sky, but a person standing beside you in the dust, ready to build tomorrow together. The orchard grew fast, its branches heavy with fruit from worlds that had once been strangers. Now they shared roots in the red soil of Ceres. 9 children played beneath them, laughing in a mix of tongues that slowly became one language of home. Lyra watched from the edge of the field, her silver hair longer now tied back with a strip of blue fabric. Maya's old jumpsuit remade into something soft and new. Peace had settled deeper this time, not as a pause between storms, but as a rhythm, a way of life. Yet Lyra felt it again, that quiet hum, not of danger but of something shifting inside her. She had given up her title, her throne, her perfect world above the clouds, but she had not lost herself. She had found more. Maya found her there, as she always did. You're thinking too hard again, Lyra smiled. Maybe. They walked toward the old dome, now turned into a school where Zenthari elders taught star navigation and human children taught them how to tell stories with their hands. Lily ran past them, chasing a Vethi child who had stolen her, had both laughing like they had always known each other. Remember when we thought we were alone, Maya said. Ra nodded. I thought the stars were cold. They're not, she said. They just needed someone to warm them. That night a message came, not from the core worlds, but from the far rim, a faint signal buried in static. Kyle's voice, broken but clear. They found the source, the origin of the silence, the thing that made whole systems go dark. Not the Krell, not slavers. Something older. Something. Hungry, Lyra felt the old fear rise, but Maya squeezed her hand. We don't. The Council of Valeris called an emergency conclave, but this time they did not ask for words, they asked for action, and they asked for Ceres 9 to lead. Maya stood before the gathered species in the great hall of the Aetheris, now a ship of many voices. We don't know what we face, she said. But we know this, we face it together. Plans formed fast, humans built shielded probes. Zenthari mapped gravity, wells. Vethi traced energy trails from dead worlds. Refugees offered their fastest ships, their bravest pilots, their last rations. Lyra did not command. She listened. She learned. She trusted. The fleet that left Series 9 was unlike any before it. Not a wall of war, but a web of care ships linked by shared signals, by songs, by promises to watch each other's backs. They traveled for weeks through dead zones where stars flickered like dying breaths. Then they found it. A black sphere floating in the void. No light, no heat, no signal, just silence. As they approached, the silence grew, not outside but inside. Minds went quiet. Thoughts slipped away like sand through fingers. Maya gasped, clutching her head. It wants us to forget, Lee. Ra fought to hold on to one thought. Mayashi reached out and grabbed her hand, and in that touch memory returned. It feeds on isolation, Lyra said. It makes you believe you're alone. Then we show it what alone is. Not, Maya said. She opened a channel to every ship in the fleet, not with orders, but with a song, an old earth lullaby her mother sang to her when the world felt too big. One by one voices joined in. Zenthari harmonies. Vethi chants. Human whistles. Children's voices from the refugee ships, all weaving together a net of sound and soul. The sphere trembled. It had never heard this before, never felt connection. It had only known hunger and emptiness. The song grew louder, not to destroy but to invite. and slowly the sphere began to change. Light bloomed inside it, soft at first, then bright, not the light of fire but of dawn. When it opened, it was not a weapon but a seed, a memory of a world long gone, a species that had feared loneliness so much they built a machine to protect themselves. But the machine forgot how to stop now. It remembered the fleet returned not as conquerors but as healers. They brought the seed home to Series 9 and planted it in the heart of the orchard. It grew fast, not into a tree but into a bridge of light that connected minds not by force but by choice. Ra stood beneath it with Maya hand in hand. "You think we'll ever stop fighting?" she asked. "Maybe not," she said, "but maybe one day we won't have to." In the weeks that followed, the bridge became a place where anyone could come and share a thought, a fear, a dream. No words needed, just presence. The Zenthari Council sent a final message, not of command but of thanks. "You taught us that strength is not in perfection but in reaching out." Lyra no longer called herself anything but Lyra, and Maya no longer called herself just a dustwalker. They were builders of bridges, planters of seeds, singers in the dark. One evening as the twin suns set, they sat on the old broken wall now covered in flowering vines.